welcome back. It's Fred in the shed, up in the Radio Shack, and yet another new breaker come back to CB and joined us on the 305 this week. Guy's name is Steve. What makes Steve interesting is that he's never really been off radio for a long period of time. He was a guy that was back on in the very early AM days here in the UK. So that would have been probably around 78 to 81 when we got legalised FM. So he's a guy right back in the day. And I love talking to these old breakers because, as you know, if you've followed the channel, I came on when I was 15 in 1981. So, or maybe 82, but I was a teenager, just a kid, and these guys were the veteran sort of radio CBers, if you like. I mean, they were only in their early or mid-20s, but they seemed like veterans. When we went to the eyeballs, and we'd sit around and listen to these guys talk about the AM days, and when they would be hiding from Busby. Busby was, which is now I suppose Ofcom, they were the BT engineers that were put in charge in tracking down these illegal AM radio rigs. And yeah, it was quite a serious thing back then. I mean, nowadays, you know, I shouldn't be using this equipment, any of it, but really since the licence was removed from CB back in 2006, there's been very few prosecutions. I think online, the last time I looked, and this was a few years ago, I think the last prosecution by Radio Communications or Ofcom was around about 2010. And I think that was someone using a CB radio and a very big linear amplifier, and they were interfering with a hospital, hospital communications, so they had to act. But other than that, I don't know any CBers that have been busted. If anyone's going to get busted, guys, it's going to be me, because I'm blatantly making these videos using the wrong equipment. So if you ever tune in and you see all this vacant, you see all these holes here, it'll be that I've been busted, and then it would be Fred in the Shed QRP station, because I'll have to go legal after that. So just watch me. If I get busted, you'll know that they're still about. But it's been many years since someone got busted. But back in the day, it was a real problem. You had these officious people driving around in these detector vans, and they had the powers to stop and search with the police, and people got their equipment, a lot of the AM equipment, they got it confiscated on the spot. They got fines if they continually got busted, because let's be honest about it, they would stop these guys, take away their equipment. And there was a few stories, because if you follow the Fred in the Shed 2 channel, you'll know that I used to do a lot of earwigging on the side in the evenings. I was only a kid. You had to be a bit careful where you trod, because if you trod on someone's toes, then all these guys would descend on your house, and you'd probably get roughed up a little bit. So you had to be a bit careful in the evenings. But I used to listen, used to earwig, and then later on in the evening was the Lovebird channels, which I've gone into. I won't go into it in this video. But yeah, I used to listen, and some of these guys, I don't know if it was true, but they would say that they'd got busted. They'd say that I've got busted, and you'd be like, oh yes, well I was driving out in my maxi, and the old Bill, they pulled me over, the bloody rozzers, dragged me out of the car, held me up against the side of the vehicle, and a Busby come along, looked at my equipment. Police took it out of my car, threw it on the pavement, and they club-hammered it right there in front of me, smashed it up. But I didn't care, because I was down the pub with old Joe and his mates, had a new radio. I was back on the bloody air by the evening, bloody Busby. And that's what it was like. People got busted in the morning and caught up with their mates and, oh, flog us a radio, will you, mate? And they chucked them a Jaws AM rig, something like that, and they were back on the air. But I assume if they continually got busted, I imagine, I didn't hear of it, I must have gone to court. And yeah, you were facing a fine. Nothing that serious. I mean, someone left a comment on one of my videos a couple of years ago and said, yeah, Fred, you're using all that radio equipment, that's illegal. You're going to be facing some very serious jail time, young man. I was like, what? I'm going to go to prison for using CB radios that I shouldn't be using? These radios, you know, really? Yeah, might get a fine, but it was a serious thing. You know, you got your equipment confiscated. Whether they busted it up in front of you, I don't know. That could have been talk. So yeah, it was a great time, the AM days, and Steve, he was part of it. So I love speaking to these people that were around in the day. They've all got stories to tell. So Steve, Welwyn Garden City 20, he says he comes on air every 2 or 3 years, and he just sets up his 5/8 wave home-based antenna on a short pole, about 1.5 meters, I think it is 2 meters, just sets it up in the back of the garden, has a flick round, and when the skip's coming in, listens to the skip, gets a few continental contacts, whets his appetite, and then off he goes for maybe another couple of years. Just so happened that he set it up the other week, and he heard our local guy, Dan, from Hatfield, on the 305, and he come on to the 305 and said, "Hello, I'm Steve." I go, "Oh, hello, mate. Oh, I didn't know there was people on." And Dan said, "Oh, yeah, we're on twice a day. There's a real group here on the 305. Yeah, we're on twice a day. We're CB's but booming in this area." And he didn't know. So I take no credit for getting this guy back on, because he's not a YouTuber. He didn't even know about my YouTube channel. He has since watched a couple of my videos and left a comment, but purely by chance, flicking round once again. So yes, once again, it's the same old thing. Action breeds action, activity breeds activity, picking up us on the 305, and now he's back on. What makes him especially interesting is the radio he's using. He's using an old radio from the day. He's got himself, or had himself for many years, a Cobra 148 GTL-DX. I don't know if it's the Mark 1 or the Mark 2 version. This radio, if you're not familiar with it, certainly in the UK, it's an American radio. This was the Rolls-Royce, the Bugatti of radios back in the day when I was on in the early 80s. I never ever saw one. Never saw one. I did see one that was supposedly a 148 at a car boot sale. A few years later, it was all stripped down, the chassis, and there was no faceplate on it, but the guy was insisting it was a 148. So I never saw one in the day. It was years later on YouTube that I started seeing these 148s. But these were the radio to have. If you had a Cobby, as we used to call them, a Cobby 148, that was something really special. Nowadays, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it would compare with a modern radio. Put it up against a 6900. I think most people would agree it would wipe the floor with a 6900. I've never had one to use. I've never been that lucky. And with the prices, the way they're going up in value on eBay, it's astonishing. A bit like classic cars. They're getting more and more expensive. So the chances of me getting one are very, very slim. For the same price you pay for a boxed Cobra 148, you get yourself a pretty decent second-hand HF radio. How it would compare against something like a Yaesu 450, well, I don't, how good it is. I don't think it would really match a HF radio, but I'm sure someone would say that it would. But yeah, Steve's got himself a 148. So he comes on channel on this video on his 148. His antenna is very, very low. So I'm getting a low signal from him, but the audio that's coming out of that 148 is absolutely spot on. Sounds really, really nice. And then later on in the video, he does add a little bit extra, a George Foreman amplifier, and you'll see the signal go up and up and up. He turns it up, but unfortunately, like a lot of these amplifiers on sideband, as it goes up, his audio distorts it, overloads it, so in the end he drops it back off. And I think the radio sounds better without any amplification than it did without. So yeah, a great guy. Hopefully he'll be off and on the 305. A great old radio guy. Really nice to hear him. So enough waffle from me. So here it comes. This is Steve coming on to the 305 group for the first time. Thank you for watching the intro. Please, please, please stay safe. Remember, give me the thumbs up down below. I'd appreciate it. I won't see you at the end. So take care, and here comes the video. Cheers, guys.
Okay, Chris, no problem. Well, I'll go back to Freddie in the shed to see if he's asked, he's got his package delivered or whatever. Fred, you got a copy on me, would you?
Good afternoon there, Steve. Yeah, what's that? Sierra Whiskey, Tango 01. Yeah, I've got a lovely copy on you there, Steve. I'll say signal's down a little bit, as you said, if your antenna's only 12 foot off the deck there, but the audio's working well. So, Steve, are you on that Cobra 148 GTL?
Yeah, that's right, yes, the GTL-DX version. It's got a slight mod on the back. I can get low lows on it, and I believe I've got a switchable Roger bleed, which I don't really use, but it's on there. Yeah, it's the DX version. Had it absolutely years. It's been a really good radio. It's good condition, as Dan has been saying, and I'm well pleased with it.
Yeah, all copied from you. What a classic radio. As I was saying to the guys, because when I came on to CB, I was only a teenager, and I say that was the Rolls Royce of radios. That was the one that we all kind of wanted, could never afford there. So, that's brilliant. And has that been? Have you had that recapped, or is that as original from the 80s? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's original from the 80s. I say I've hardly had any work done with it. I've not had a lot of people had the FM, the UK FM board
nice one. It's got that classic beep as well. It sounds really nice. You've come up actually. Your signal's up to about an S4 now, and a very good audio radio 5. So obviously you obviously with that equipment you were back on the day. So you was what, the AM days, was you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had a little old Midlands. Didn't know anything about anything. Using dummy loads, we used to blow the output transistors through, keying them up without the microphone antenna connected, shit like that, you know. And we got some knowledge behind us. About 3 or 4 of us in Enfield, and 2 of those guys are millionaires today. Funny enough, one through distributing CB equipment from America over here. So it all started from there, and I started running home base, but causing so much trouble with TBI, and I started going mobile, and I used to get DX easy into the States. It was like picking up a telephone sometimes. There was equipment all setting up, I don't know what it was. The Cobra, obviously, a big part of that. Basically 500 watts linear help across there. But that antenna I was using, the Cherokee half-wave, was the one I used to DX into places like New York and all over the state.
I got most of that. Your signal was creeping up on me there. You was going up to about an S8, which is stronger signal, but the audio was starting to degrade there. So I don't know if you if you turned the power up at all there, but you might have just been slightly pushing it a little hard.
Yeah, Roger, I'll switch it off locally. That should be better. The audio should have come up. The power's obviously gone down, Roger.
Yeah, exactly right. You're back to about an S2 there, but I say you're just slightly getting a little bit crunchy. Well, it's great to hear someone that was back on, in a day. As I say, a lot of the new people coming on now, they sort of missed all that. So, when's the last time? Obviously, before you came back recently, when's the last time you was on the radio?
It'll be about 2 years. I moved over here about 25 years ago. Everything went in the loft, all the radio equipment, power supplies, one thing or another. And I got it out about 2 years ago. So I had an enormous tree, 70, 80 foot at the bottom of the garden. And I thought that's an ideal place for an antenna. So I climbed up there and hooked it up. It's like using it. I'm getting into Europe, no problem. Until no states tried coming over a couple of years ago. But I'm getting into Germany, Italy, France, Sweden, Norway, places like that, with no problem at all. That was the last time I used it. The skips all disappeared, contacts were going off, and I put it away. So it's probably about 2 years ago since I last went off yourself.
Yeah, all got me from me there, Steve. Well, there's been quite a few people come on, in the last couple of years. Lockdown was the thing around here. People sort of had plenty of time on their hands. The ones that weren't working, they were locked in and got a lot of the old equipment out, bought sort of new CRT radios and started coming back on. And we've had a lot of people come back on in the last 2 years, people that have always been here, so it's lovely to hear you. Hopefully we'll be hearing you a lot more on the 305. I assume you know the times. It's about this time of afternoon for the afternoon guys, and if you get up really early, you've got Pucker Dave's crew kicks off at 5:30 to about 6:30. A lot of the others, Dan and Chris, go on that. So yeah, I've got a little bit on video, if you don't mind. Eventually I'll filter that up onto the channel, because it's always great to hear new people. It's encouraging other people to come on, and yeah, nice to copy you. So I won't hog it with you anymore. I'll put it back to Dan, and I'll be copying again soon there, Steve. So nice to hear you, old mate. And yeah, back to you down in Hatfield from Fred.
Break. We'll be listening in and joining in with you hopefully in the near future. So thanks again, Dan, Chris, Jim, Fred, all of you out there, Richard. Many thanks, 73 to you all, and I'll get back to you tomorrow hopefully. I'll get a chance to get on, Roger. To yourself. Cheers, Steve.
73, Steve. Take care.
Yeah, 33. Yeah. Yeah, I think Cobra right still keeps going, mate, because that's a lovely radio. I used to have one years ago there, Steve, so yeah, and 73 to you, mate. Yeah, you take care. Yeah, stay back to you, 73. Bye-bye, mate. 73, mate. Right, ciao. Break. Break, go. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Phil in Bushy. Good afternoon, Phil in Bushy.